chance for Messi! How fitting it is, and it could be his goal that wins the title for Paris Saint-Germain.
Was Messi a flop at PSG? It's a question that gets thrown around a lot, and many critics, especially those not fond of him, argue his time in Paris was underwhelming. But did he really suck, or is this a distorted narrative? Was his time in Paris truly a failure, or is it unfairly viewed through the narrow lens of Champions League heartbreak? Let's address the elephant in the room. PSG has spent billions assembling a galaxy of stars. Zlatan, Neymar, Mbappe, Di Maria, Cavani, and Messi, all in pursuit of Champions League glory. The holy grail of European football that PSG desperately craves, the feeling of being Europe's champion. But year after year they fall short, earning a reputation as domestic champions who can't quite make it on the European stage. In 2021, PSG brought in Lionel Messi, fresh off a heartbreaking exit from Barcelona, hoping the most decorated player in the history of the game could be the final piece of the puzzle. So when Messi arrived in Paris that summer, expectations were sky high. Messi, with his pedigree, was seen as the missing link to unlock European success. Like many, I believed PSG's new front three would terrorize Europe, but they didn't. And while Messi's arrival didn't bring the Champions League to Paris, placing all the blame on him is a massive oversimplification. Football is a team sport, and PSG wasn't a team. They were a bunch of individuals playing together. Their defense was disorganized, the midfield was weak, and all they did there was attend matches for the money of it and not the passion, which meant that even Messi, one of the greatest ever, couldn't change the club's fate alone. PSG's failures ran deeper than one man could solve. But was it all a disaster? Far from it. Domestically, Messi was a key part of PSG's success. He helped them secure back-to-back Ligue 1 titles, contributing goals and assists while adapting to a new league at the age of 34. Yet none of this seemed to matter because, let's be honest here, the Champions League was always the main prize. It's why they signed him in the first place. Now, Messi's performances were never the issue. In fact, he adjusted well in France, taking on a deeper playmaking role and consistently helping PSG control games. His passes split defenses, but without a strong midfield to support him, and with a defense that constantly buckled under pressure, Messi's genius was often left isolated. Take the tie against Manchester City in the group stages of the 2021-2022 season, for example. In the first game, PSG's midfield trio of Verratti, Gay, and Herrera struggled to cope with City's fluidity and dominance in possession. City outnumbered them in midfield with their 4-3-3 system, and PSG couldn't match their energy and pressing intensity. City bypassed them too easily and controlled the tempo of the game. PSG's defense was also stretched by City's relentless pressing and wide overloads. Hakimi was often caught too high up the pitch, leaving the central defenders exposed. Meanwhile, the poor pressing coordination from PSG's front three allowed City to build from the back without much resistance. It was a miracle PSG won that game. Messi dropped back to relieve the pressure from City's high press, slowed the tempo of the game, and then scored a brilliant counter-attacking goal after linking up with Mbappe. This showed how unprepared PSG was to compete on the European stage against elite opponents. But the struggles didn't end there. They also found it difficult against a compact, organized defense from Club Brugge in the group stage, failing to find rhythm early in the game. They even struggled against Saint-Etienne in Ligue 1, a club that spent 7 times less money than PSG that season and was fighting to avoid relegation. PSG conceded early in that game and had to come from behind, always relying on Messi to drop into midfield to dictate play and deliver killer passes to Mbappe. PSG's disjointed structure left their midfield disconnected from their forward line. When they failed to top their group, they met a familiar foe in the round of 16, Real Madrid, and it was total chaos. In the first leg, PSG looked like the better side. Marco Verratti and Leandro Paredes excelled at retaining possession and breaking down Madrid's counterattacks, controlling the tempo of the game. However, there was a noticeable gap in connecting the midfield with the attack. They failed to create clear attacking chances for the front three, as Madrid's organization made it difficult to break through in the final third. Messi frequently dropped deep to link up play and transition the ball forward to Mbappe, who wreaked havoc on Carvajal and Militao. However, this often left Mbappe isolated up front, while Messi was far from his most lethal areas, which made them fail to translate the possession they had into goals. In the second leg at the Bernabeu, PSG's fragilities were brutally exposed. Mbappe opened the scoring, but PSG's defense crumbled as Real Madrid turned the screws. Verratti and Paredes lost control of the midfield under Madrid's pressing, failing to fill the gaps, easily allowing Luka Modric and Vinicius Jr. to run at PSG's defense. And Kimpembe and Marquinhos struggled to contain Benzema as they were often caught out of position. A critical mistake by Donnarumma, attempting a risky pass under pressure, gifted Benzema his first goal, shifting the momentum to Real Madrid. And Messi, tasked with dropping deeper to regain control, was left isolated and unable to impose himself further up the pitch, where it mattered most. Marquinhos' poor clearance gifted Benzema his third goal, sealing PSG's collapse, because after that, they all broke down psychologically. Fast forward to the 2022-2023 season, and PSG's problems remained largely unchanged. Their clash with Bayern Munich followed a similar script. Messi again found himself at the heart of a dysfunctional team. In the first leg, Bayern dominated possession, and PSG's disjointed build-up play was no match for Bayern's pressing and organization, nullifying Messi's efforts, who had dropped deep to link up play with Verratti and Pereira and gain back control of the midfield. Hakimi had trouble dealing with the overlapping runs of Kingsley Coman and Alphonso Davies down the left flank, as he was often caught high up the pitch, leading to Coman's goal. The second leg was much the same. Matthijs de Ligt and Dayot Upamecano completely neutralized Messi and Mbappe. Marco Verratti made a mistake of trying to dribble right in front of his own penalty box under pressure from Goretzka and Muller, losing the ball and leading to Bayern's second on aggregate. Marquinhos and his replacement Nordi Mukiel both got injured and were replaced by a 17-year-old El Chadal Bitashiabu. This alone was enough for me to know they'd already lost. Their squad depth was very shallow, having to rely on an inexperienced kid to form a solid backline against an aggressive Bayern Munich in the final leg of the tie, when the team is already 2-0 down on aggregate, was a disgrace. Messi tried to drop back and cover spaces when Bayern had possession, tried some link-up play with Verratti, Vitinha and Hakimi, and did his best to find Kylian in attacking positions, but Bayern's midfield limited his influence, and Mbappe was heavily marked by Upamecano and De Ligt, completely isolating him from the midfield. Vitinha and Fabian were unable to provide the physicality and forward thrust needed to compete with Bayern's robust midfield. And none of them is a traditional box-to-box midfielder who can cover large distances, recover possession, and support both defense and attack. This often left spaces that prompted Bayern's attack. Cancelo pushed the ball high up the pitch, linked up with Gnabry, who slotted it home, sending PSG to the airport. Messi's time in Paris wasn't about individual failure. Domestically, he was excellent, playing a key role in PSG's title wins. But PSG's UCL struggles reflect a club that still hasn't built a solid sporting project. They have spent big on attacking stars while neglecting balance and depth, especially in defense and midfield. In both the Real Madrid and Bayern Munich ties, Messi's role shifted from goal scorer to playmaker and problem solver. He did his part, but the team's structural weaknesses prevented him from succeeding. The harsh criticisms of his time in Paris overlooked the fact that Messi was working in a system that was flawed from top to bottom. He didn't suck at football. PSG sucked at building a team capable of winning at the highest level. Their defense was fragile, unable to deal with high-intensity pressing from elite sides. Their midfield was often overrun, and tactically, they lacked the flexibility to cope with the demands needed. Psychologically, the team was also weak and often broke down, especially in high-pressure moments in the UCL. We saw this against Barcelona in the infamous La Remontada, and again against Real Madrid.